There's a moment that happens quietly, not at midnight, not after a failure. It happens on an ordinary afternoon when you scroll past someone's life and something tightens in your chest. You're not sure what you're behind on, you just know the feeling, like the world moved forward while you were looking away. Today, we're going inside that feeling, not to escape it, but to understand exactly what it is and why your brain keeps generating it. You wake up and the day is fine. But somewhere between the morning coffee and the evening quiet, a thought surfaces. Someone your age just bought a house. Someone younger just published a book. Someone you knew in school just announced something that made them look like they're living the life you meant to be building. And then you check your own life, and it doesn't match. Not dramatically, not catastrophically, just quietly not matching. This is not weakness. This is not ingratitude. This is a very specific psychological phenomenon, and it has a name. It's called social comparison theory. In 1954, psychologist Leon Festinger proposed that humans have a fundamental drive to evaluate themselves, not against an objective standard, but against other people. It's how we calibrate. It's how our brains estimate where we stand. But here's where it gets complicated. For most of human history, we compared ourselves to the 50 or so people we could actually see, the village, the tribe, people whose full lives we knew, their struggles, their setbacks, their ordinary days. Now, in the span of one scroll, you can compare yourself to 10,000 people, each one showing only their highlight, their peak moment, their announcement, their most curated version of progress. Your brain was not built for this volume. It takes in all those signals, milestone after milestone, and calculates, quietly, you are behind. But behind what? Behind whom? Behind a timeline that doesn't exist. Here is something important to hold on to. The feeling of being behind is not evidence that you are behind. It is evidence that your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do, monitoring your social environment, seeking status information, trying to protect you from falling out of the group. In ancestral terms, being left behind by the tribe was a survival threat. So your nervous system treats it that way. It generates urgency. It generates shame. It generates that restless, heavy ache that makes Tuesday afternoon feel like failure. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You are not fundamentally behind. You are a human brain in a social media environment that it was never designed to navigate. And that matters, because once you understand the mechanism, you can work with it instead of drowning in it. Think of your brain as having two systems running at the same time. The first is the narrator. It's the voice that tells the story of your life, where you are, where you're headed, whether you're doing enough. The second is the scanner. It never stops. It reads the room. It picks up social data constantly. Who has what, who's moved where, what your peers are achieving. The scanner feeds information to the narrator, and the narrator builds your self-concept from it. When the scanner is flooded, when it's processing hundreds of others' successes at once, the narrator doesn't have the data to push back. It simply incorporates the flood. And the story it writes becomes, everyone is moving forward and I am not. This is also why the feeling tends to peak in the evenings, when external input slows and the narrator has space to process the day's accumulated comparisons. There's another layer here. Psychologists call it the focusing illusion, a concept developed by Daniel Kahneman. When you see someone's milestone, your attention zooms in on that one thing, the promotion, the house, the relationship. And for a moment, that thing becomes their entire life in your mind. You don't see the anxiety behind it, the debt, the quiet loneliness, the private doubts they carry about their own path. Your scanner captures the headline, it never reads the full story. And your narrator uses the headline to write your story as lesser. That's the mechanism. That's the machinery behind the ache. So how do you work with this? Here are 4 principles, each grounded in psychology, not to fix the feeling, but to relate to it differently. 1. Curate your comparison set intentionally. Research by Thomas Wills in 1981 identified 2 directions of social comparison. Upward comparison, looking at those who have more, tends to increase motivation in small doses, but generates chronic dissatisfaction at high volumes. Downward comparison, looking at those with less, can temporarily boost confidence, but builds neither growth nor empathy. The third option, which most people overlook, is temporal comparison, comparing yourself to who you were 6 months ago, a year ago, 3 years ago. This is the only comparison that uses real data about your actual life. It's the only one the scanner can't distort with someone else's highlight reel. Ask yourself, what has quietly changed in me that I haven't given credit for? 2. Interrupt the narrator before it builds a case. Cognitive behavioral psychology calls this cognitive diffusion, the practice of noticing a thought before it becomes a belief. When the feeling surfaces, "I'm behind," the instinct is to engage it, to argue with it, to analyze it, or spiral into it. Instead, try naming it neutrally. My brain is generating a behind signal. Not "I am behind," but "my brain is producing that output right now." The thought doesn't change, but your relationship to it does. You become the observer, not the subject of the story. 3. Redefine the metric. Psychologist Martin Seligman's work on well-being identifies 5 pillars of a flourishing life: positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. Notice that only one of them involves external achievement. The feeling of being behind almost always targets accomplishment, career, money, status, milestones. But ask yourself honestly, which of the other 4 are present in your life right now? Is there depth in your relationships? Is there meaning in how you spend your hours? Is there any feeling, even a quiet one, of engagement? Because a life rich in 4 of those and slow in 1 is not a life behind, it is a life with a particular shape. 4. Let the urgency be information, not instruction. The feeling of falling behind carries energy, urgency, a push. That's not nothing. That's your nervous system saying something matters to you. The mistake is letting that urgency dictate chaotic action, changing everything, abandoning what's already working, chasing someone else's path because your brain flagged it as ahead. Instead, sit with the urgency for a moment. Ask, what does this feeling know that I haven't let myself admit? Sometimes it's pointing at something real, a direction you've been avoiding, a choice you've been deferring. And sometimes it's just the scanner doing its job, reading a feed full of highlight reels and writing a story that isn't true. Here's the mental model to hold on to. Imagine your life as a river. Every river has its own source, its own terrain, its own speed. Some rivers are wide and fast, some are narrow and deep. Some move quietly through valleys, some rush down steep mountain faces. No river is behind another river. They are simply different rivers moving through different landscapes toward different seas. The feeling of falling behind is what happens when you try to compare rivers. When you look at the river next to you, the one the scanner has highlighted, and you decide yours should move at the same speed in the same direction past the same landmarks. But rivers don't work that way, and neither do lives. Your pace is not evidence of failure. It is the natural movement of a life shaped by your particular terrain, your history, your nervous system, your losses, your detours, your specific and unrepeatable combination of who you are. So here is where we land. You are not behind. You are in the middle of something that doesn't have a finishing line you can find on someone else's profile. The urgency you feel is real, but it is not a verdict. It is your brain doing its ancient job, scanning, comparing, protecting. You can thank it for that, and then you can gently correct it with the one dataset it keeps ignoring: your own life. The actual texture of it, the slow accumulations, the things that have quietly changed, the capacity you've built in the dark, without an audience. None of that shows up on the scanner, none of it gets announced, but it is real, and it is yours. If this found you at the right moment, sit with it a little longer. Not because you need to fix anything tonight, but because understanding your own mind, even one small piece of it, is one of the quietest, most profound things a person can do.